Welcome back to Eye on the Money. Today we're discussing emergency funds, and with me in studio is Noni Kihagi, who is the founder of Mirror Wealth Coaching. So now, Noni, before we went on break, you were telling us everything we need to know about why it's important to have an emergency fund, how much you need to put aside, and for how long you need to put aside money. However, even when we talk about an emergency fund, I mean, you've told us we need to have two. We need to have a savings fund, and we need to have savings, and we still need to have to set up an emergency fund for those miscellaneous unforeseen events. So when we talk about setting up an emergency fund, does it have to be, how do you go about that? Like, does that mean you can have a little box in your, little metallic box in your house where you just keep putting money away? Do you have to set up a savings account specifically for that? Or can I use my savings account as the emergency fund? How do you go about those, like that entire dynamic?
Okay, so you want to set up a savings account.
Now, the savings account is the emergency fund?
No, you want to set up a separate savings account.
Okay.
For your emergency fund with a reputable bank.
Right.
And I'll tell you why. And please, if you're a fund manager, you may want to block your ears now, because people like saying, put it in a money market fund, and I'll tell you why you shouldn't put it in a money market fund. So please, fund managers, don't be angry at me.
Don't be angry. No, just tell us the truth. We're here to give proper financial information.
So you want to put it in a savings account. And the reason why you want to put it in a savings account is because savings accounts in Kenya don't have any charges, right? So instead of putting in a current account, you'll probably be charged. Yeah. Why not put it in a savings account? Right. So what you want to do is how you want to set it up is its own savings account. You want to set it up from your income account. So whether that's your salary account, or if you're in business, you have a particular account you get your income into, you want to set up a standing order from there to your savings account. The reason being, if you rely on yourself to do it, you will find reasons why you will not do it. Yeah? So you want to automate it. You want to not even have to think about it.
It just happens.
It just happens, right? And then after you do that, the reason why I say it has to be in a savings account is, apart from the charges, and why not a metallic container, or under your mattress, is because of safety. So if it's with the bank, it is safe. That's why we say a reputable bank. And even with all the funny things that have happened in the banking industry, at least they are insured. So at least your money is safe. So that's why you want to put it in a savings account. The other reason you want it in a bank and not in a money market is this is not an investment. And
I like how you've kept mentioning that it's not an investment. It is
not an investment. So here you're not looking at beating inflation. You're not looking at
growing that income. You're not trying to make it work for you. No. It's just money you've put aside.
It's money you've put aside. And this is why, when an emergency comes, like we already said, it doesn't announce itself, right? So what you want to be able to do is to access it as quickly as possible. Now, if your money is in a money market, for instance, they always tell you, okay, well, let me just speak about my fund manager. It takes at least 3 working days to get the money. But I have an emergency now. I can't wait 3 working days to get into my emergency. The other thing is, sometimes they tell you, well, you can still get it in the same day, but it depends on when you give us the instructions, because they have their own administrative rules that they have to follow, and I guess also with CBK and the whole RTGS process. So they know why they're saying, give us the instructions by this time. So if I have an emergency, I need to be able to access it as quickly as possible. And that's why a bank comes in. So yes, it's in my savings account. I'm not getting charged for having the savings account. Yes, I am getting negligible interest, but that is fine, because it is not an investment, it is savings. And if anything happens, like right now, if something happened, because of mobile banking and my mobile app, guess what? Just transfer.
I'll just access my money any time of the night, any time of the day, whenever I need it.
That's why it has to be in a bank. So it has to be in a bank, reputable bank, in a savings account with the bank. And the thing is, with the bank, obviously, now you also don't want to keep on dipping into it, because then you'll be penalized, because you can't be treating a savings account as a current account. It is not a current account, it is a savings account. So that's what you also want to put in the back of your mind. And that's why I say your emergency fund, not in a money market, in a bank account, bank savings account. Your other investments, if you're saving for a car, if you're saving for a phone, if you're saving saving, whatever it is people save for, just put in a money market. By
Right.
all means, these are not emergencies. I mean, if you're buying a car, I don't think you will not buy it because you have to wait 3 working days to get your money back.
You'll still get it.
You'll still get it. So that's why I insist. Savings account, reputable bank, and please don't touch it unless for an emergency.
That's a very good one. Please don't touch it. So now, Noni, this emergency fund that we're talking about, ideally, how long should it last? I mean, you've told us we need to have between 3 to 6 months of like your survival budget. However, what if I'm very disciplined? I've not touched my money. I've even accumulated up to 10 years. I've been going to retirement. Now I also have my retirement benefits. Like, I'm looking good. At what point should I say, okay, enough with this emergency fund? Let me enjoy my money. How long ideally should the duration?
What emergency fund?
Setting up this emergency.
It's a lifelong commitment.
commitment.
It's a lifelong commitment. If you don't get any, you just in your will, I bequeath my emergency fund too.
Noni.
Because I'll tell you why.
Right.
Emergencies happen. Even when you're 90, an emergency can happen.
It's true.
So, but the thing is, the emergency fund that was enough for Noni, who is a single person, is very different from Noni, who suddenly has a family.
Yeah.
So what you actually notice is your emergency fund, and the reason why it will continue being there is as you change, as your lifestyle changes, as your status changes, your emergency fund has to keep up with your lifestyle
So does that mean, yeah, because that means also you have to adjust. You have to go back to the drawing board, set up a new budget.
So can you imagine?
Wow.
So for example, let's say I set up the emergency fund when my rent is 20,000.
Yeah.
And then let's say 10 years down the line, I have a mortgage and my
Right.
mortgage payment is 200,000. I mean,
Yeah.
that emergency fund is no longer sufficient
True.
for me. So you always want to, so even as you put your money in the savings account and don't just leave it there, you want to look at, okay, so now I have a child. Wow, suddenly I'm taking care of 2 people.
Right.
I need to adjust. So I need to go back and build up my emergency fund. Oh, now there are 3. Oh my gosh, now I have school fees, now I have school uniform, now I have to think of all these things.
Right.
So I have to go back and I need to adjust my emergency fund. So you'll find that you're never actually at any point not needing your emergency fund. There's never a time you will say, you know what, I've been so good, I've been so disciplined. Imagine, no?
It will never, yeah.
And especially like when you're retired, that is when you will really need your emergency
True.
fund, because then your income is not what it was when you were at your peak earning years. So yes, you'll always need your emergency fund. It never ends.
Noni, you've mentioned something so important where you said it will never get to a point in time where you're like, oh, I'm so disciplined, I've been putting away a lot, so let me relax. And you know, it's always so painful. Even when you're saving, you know you're doing it for the future, but putting that money away is always somehow painful because the needs for some reason always outweigh the money, well, in my case at least, or for other people's cases. So my question then is, we've touched it all over the place, but what are the actual benefits? Noni, make it worth the pain. Why do I have to put away money in 2 different places? At what am I going to get out of this that is so important?
Imagine peace of mind.
And that's what I want.
Peace of mind. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you are like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to make it to tomorrow. Guess what?
Been there, done that.
Did you have an emergency fund at that time?
I didn't know you yet.
That's why you need an emergency
Yeah, I'm never going back there though.
It's for peace of mind. The other thing, if you notice, even what has been happening, for example, in the past year, there's been a lot of retrenchments that have been happening, right? And so people now go and they dip into their pension fund, up to their allowable limit. And then even after that, it still takes time for you to actually get another job. So in between that time when you're looking for another job, what are you going to do? Are you going to still be able to survive? I mean, how sad would it be that you've been earning your income for 5, 10 years, whatever duration of time you've been working, and then suddenly you lose your job and you can no longer take your child to school?
Yeah, that's true.
So even for the sake of the next generation, for the sake of not destabilizing your children's lives, and yes, there are times for downsizing, and that is wisdom, but you don't want to completely pull the rug from under them because you were not prepared. And that's why I say an emergency fund is for someone who is earning an income. Now, I mean, if you're barely making it day to day, wisdom entails, please continue making it rich
just
today.
survive.
Just survive. It doesn't make sense that I have just been paid, like those people who are paid per day. I mean, does that now make sense that they've bought food, now they're like, okay, now we won't even eat, let's put money in an emergency fund. But as long as you have an income, no matter how small, even if you have to put aside 100 shillings, just put it aside, because you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your family, and you're taking care of the generations. And it's really for peace of mind. I don't think there's anything, I think the greatest wealth there is.
I'm not even arguing.
It's peace of mind.
When you said peace of mind, I said, where's that emergency fund? That peace of mind.
Yeah, and that is the main thing. And I know there are times people say like, oh, well, I had set aside, let's say 300,000 shillings and the emergency was 1,000,000 shillings. And so I still had to look for the other 700. But guess what?
You had at least a boost. You had somewhere to start. It's different from when you start from zero.
Yeah, so that is those are the benefits of having an emergency fund and why it is so crucial. And in fact, what I usually tell people is, before even you start concentrating on your investments, first have at least a 1-month emergency fund. So that then after that, at least after you have 1-month emergency fund, now from your own money and from your budget, you can say, okay, this percentage will go towards my investment, this percentage will go towards building up the rest of the emergency fund. And even after you've built the emergency fund, because you already have that, you've gotten used to being broke on purpose, right? Because you've been keeping money aside. Suddenly, when you now have built it up, guess what? You won't use that extra money now carelessly. You're actually going to be like, oh, this 30K I've been putting aside every month. Now guess what? Why not build up my investments? Why not give more? Why not do that more? So it just disciplines even your entire financial management. So that's why it's important.
Thank you very much for coming on to the show, Noni. You've provided so much amazing information as usual. I'm so sure we have so many viewers out there who are watching and saying, oh my God, I thought my savings were enough. But like you've said, you never know when an emergency is going to show up. So that emergency fund is definitely a necessity. So we've come to the end of the show, but as usual, I'm going to leave you with a financial tip. If you only have one source of income, it's essential to have a substantial emergency fund. This can help you get through an unexpected job loss or illness that keeps the primary breadwinner from working. If you're a one-income family or you're single, you should have at least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in your emergency fund. You can build up the larger emergency fund after you get out of debt. That's where we wrap it up today on Eye on the Money, but you can keep the conversation going on our social media pages at Metropole TV KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm Ingrid Nantege. Don't go anywhere because we have so much more amazing programming coming your way right here on Metropole TV.